back at Trilogy with another super exciting watch and something that's a real rare piece. It's just come into the store, so I thought it was about time to show you guys and talk through this amazing watch. Here we have with me today, we have the Rolex GMT Master 2 in rose gold, Saru, reference number 126755 Saru. So let's delve into that. The Rolex GMT with sapphires and rubies has an interesting history over the years. We have seen a few iterations of the Saru. Saru simply means sapphire and ruby. It's literally the SA from sapphire and ruby, and it literally just indicates the use of sapphire and rubies on the bezel of the GMT. The Saru is a very interesting piece, and it's definitely not something you'd see every day across all iterations, whether it be the original one or the other ones, the white gold, the yellow gold, or the rose gold, which we're going to delve into a little bit more, but you don't see them often at all. You can probably see 10 or 20 full gold GMT Masters and for every one Saru you see. So they are really quite rare and really special pieces. I'm a big fan of them. As I said, the original Saru was released in 1980, but it's called. It is now referred to as a Saru, but on the reference number, it was never, the word Saru was never actually used. So it was just originally a 16758. You can see it up on screen now. It's an absolutely stunning piece. As I said, it's the first Rolex to use the sapphire and rubies on the bezel, as well as it's got the factory pave diamond dial. And this was a really cool watch, and it was quite a groundbreaking piece in my opinion. So the Saru, as I said, is a very groundbreaking piece in the 80s because it was such a sort of outlandish and different piece that we'd come to expect. This was the day when men's Datejust and men's day dates were 36mm, and that was the big size, especially in the gold day dates. And then obviously you had Rolex release this Saru with the gem set bezel and the pave dial. It was really out there and quite an ostentatious watch, so we're not really sure how well it would have been received at the time, but it wasn't as popular as the Sarus of today are. As the watch market has matured and people have started looking at different things, diamond set pieces and gem set pieces have become a lot more popular. The original Saru was quite a groundbreaking piece when it was first released in the mid-80s. It was something that we hadn't really seen before, and it was quite a out there piece and quite outlandish piece really for what the watch market was at the time. This was a time when day dates in 36mm was the biggest size, and the gents Rolex Datejust was a 36mm as well, and that was the biggest size available. And then you had Rolex come straight out the bat with something incredible, which is the 16758 Saru, which featured the sapphire and ruby bezel, as well as the full pave factory diamond dial. And it's just an absolutely stunning piece. It really has a great shine and glare to it, and it was something completely different at the time. As we know, Rolex, with their factory gems and factory stones, only uses the best, and the combination of the corundums on the bezel just work really well together, and it was something that we hadn't seen, and I for one am a big fan of it. Maybe it was a bit too advanced for the watch market of the time, because it wasn't really appreciated as much as we appreciate it today. I mean, they are making big money now, the original 16758. As I said, it didn't actually feature Saru on the reference, but that's something that we've come to adopt later in the journey with these GMT gem sets. Obviously, the first watch to feature the Saru would be the 116758, which we're going to show up in a second. But the original one, and the one that everyone loves, would be the 16758, just because of how groundbreaking it was and so unexpected. And that still today is a watch that people love and aspire. I think it really did help to make big waves in the watch market. So that was the original Saru. And then following that, in 2006, when Rolex re-released the GMT in yellow gold, we got the updated 116758 Saru, we can see up on the screen now. This obviously being the updated case, obviously a little bit thicker than the 16758. And this was actually the first GMT Master to use the reference Saru in its name. So you'll see that on the paperwork or on the card of that watch. And now it's just been adopted for the previous gen as well. For me, the 116758 Saru has got an interesting bit of history, only for myself personally. It was actually the first ever gem set Rolex I ever bought when I started my career. I was all excited. I think it's a milestone in a watch dealer's career or a watch collector's career when you sort of make that jump up to, starting out with the smaller watches, and as you progress, you can buy bigger things. I remember buying it 5 years ago. I paid 50,000 for it at the time, and that was a good price, and obviously they've moved up significantly since then. So that was, I kept it for a couple of weeks. I wore it and I admired it, and I really thought, wow, this is so cool, because I'd admired these from afar, from years, from seeing them on websites, and it was so cool to be actually in a position to have bought and then subsequently sold one. So for me, I do have a sort of special connection with that 116758 reference, just because it was my first one. And obviously that was based off of the yellow gold GMT at the time with the reference 116718. So even without the Saru reference at the end, you can tell the difference in references. Obviously it's a 718 ref without the diamonds, or a 758, the 5 at the end, the 5th digit of the reference number would indicate gem setting on the case, which obviously we saw with the previous generation, 116758 as well. So that's just a little insight into Rolex reference numbers there. The following year, after the release of the 116758 Saru in yellow gold, we saw the release of the 116759 Saru, which is obviously the white gold version. For me, it's a cool watch. It's an important part in the history of the Saru collection. However, I'm not so sure that I'm a massive fan of it. I don't think the colours pop off as well. The rubies and the sapphires do not the colours don't really shine and pop off as well, with the contrast. There's not as much of a contrast with the white gold. It's a cool watch, don't get me wrong, it's nice, but out of the sort of 4-ish Sarus, then it's not really the one that I would choose to own, just because I think if you're going to get a gem set piece, you want something with a bit more contrast and something a bit more cool. It's definitely a great watch, I'm not saying that, but just in my personal opinion, it's probably the worst of the Sarus, and obviously the market price does reflect that as well, that it's the least in demand. The other thing that's killed that one for me is people buying the stainless steel GMTs and putting like a really bad afterset bezel on it. Back in the day you could buy a GMT $5,000, get a bezel 5.5 to 6,000, and people would then be having imitation Sarus with these like really poorly set bezels made in factories that aren't a Rolex factory. They're not using the best stones, and I just think you were seeing them a lot back 5-8 years ago. You were seeing them all the time, and for me, I wasn't really a fan of it, and I think that sort of ruined the allure and the exclusivity of the actual Saru in white gold, just because of people were just making them, and it didn't really work that well, and they was always ugly, and but then people come to sell them back and they were never really holding their value. So that's another reason for me I wasn't a big fan of it. One thing that Rolex didn't release, and that we've sort of been waiting for, was a bit unexpected that it took so long, was this. This is the reference 126755 Saru. So this is the rose gold GMT with the factory Saru bezel and the diamonds on the shoulders. It's an absolutely astounding piece, and for me, I think it's the best of the Sarus. It's a bit sort of surprising. I mean, we had the white gold and the yellow gold available. I mean, the yellow gold was available for nearly 40 years before this release in the original reference, and the white gold, obviously released in 2007, was available 13 years prior. This was released in early 2020, and I don't think that could have come soon enough. Obviously, it's based off of the Rose Gold GMT Master reference 126715, which was released in 2018. The case is exactly the same. It's made off of that, but obviously it's then just made with the absolutely stunning and really well made sapphire and ruby bezel, and with the diamond set shoulders. It is the best GMT on the market in my opinion. It's absolutely stunning. I like the contrast with the black dial. This one is also available with a full pave dial, but for me, I don't think you need it. I think the Saru bezel by itself is much better, really. I think if you have it, it's a bit too much with the full pave dial. And then especially again, if you go for the full pave bracelet, you can see that up on screen now. These go for about £250,000 with the pave dial and the pave bracelet, so you're giving about 100k more for that one as opposed to this one. But for me, I'd rather keep the 100k and buy another watch. I'd get this and perhaps a platinum Daytona or something of that ilk, with the 100k, as opposed to giving 100 grand for some diamonds on a bracelet and diamonds on the dial. Don't get me wrong, I do love diamond set pieces, but I mean, you've got to have that value proposition now, and I'm not really seeing the value difference with a full diamond set bracelet and pave dial for 100k. I know it's a special piece, I am a fan of it, I would wear it, but I'd rather keep my 100k and obviously get like a platinum Daytona or one of the Nautilus range. I think it just makes a lot more sense financially to do that. So I mean, that's my opinion. Other people's opinions may differ, but for me, this is the one to have in the GMT line. This is the Saru. Obviously it's not the original Saru, but if I was going to own one and wear one, this would be the one. Let's talk a bit about pricing. The 16758 Saru is now the most expensive because it's so rare. They're going for over £300,000. They're really hard to find. There weren't a lot of made at the time because the demand wasn't there, the market wasn't there for that watch. So that is the most expensive one. And then this one is around 150,000. The 126755, you see the yellow gold 116758 going for sort of 85 to 90,000, and then obviously white gold being the least in demand. It's still high price, don't get me wrong, it's around 70 to 80k. So that's the prices on those. Obviously the ones with the gem set bracelet, gem set dials, pave dials do go for a lot more. So as I said, this one would be about $250,000 with the full bracelet and dial, as well as the yellow gold with the full pave, and the 116 ref also goes for that sort of money as well. So that was a roundup of the Saru collection as we've seen from the years from the 80s to now. Obviously you can tell my favorite one has been this one, the 126755 Saru. I just think the colors work so much better, the rose gold with the blue and the rubies, the blue sapphires and the rubies. So for me, this is the one to have. I also have that special connection with the 116758 as I mentioned. But yeah, this would be the one I had if I had to choose one. I'd be interested to see what you guys think and which one you would choose. Do you agree with me on the white gold? Would you perhaps consider having the full pave bracelet and dial, the fully diamond set one? I mean, it's a cool watch. Really interested to see if you guys agree or which one you would choose. So let me know in the comments below. Thanks for tuning into Trilogy. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe and share. And if you're looking for a new watch, don't forget to phone Frankie first.